this right here is a very high possibility of something that could happen.
I went online this morning and I rented us a beautiful house out by the beach.
Oh, this is nice. This looks so happy. I'm so sorry to bother you, but this is our house.
This is your house?
We were driving back to the city, then something happened.
We need to get them out of here.
We are seeing ongoing cyber attacks across the country.
Something is happening and I don't trust them.
I would do anything to protect my family. What you do is your business.
Get in the car right now!
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shanclen Shadow Productions. Now, I know this is a week and a half late, and I honestly was just spending time with my family, enjoying a little bit of time off from making videos and everything, but I'm back, yes. And I'm coming back with a video about a movie review, a movie I recently saw on Netflix called Leave the World Behind. Now, if you guys haven't seen this, this is starring Ethan Hawke, Julia Roberts, Mahershala Allah, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, Maya La, and then Charles Evans and Alexis Ray Florenza. I'm sorry if I butchered those names. I'm horrible with names. But pretty much the premise of this movie, the overview, I'm gonna look at my phone for this one. It's pretty much of a family vacation on Long Island is interrupted by two strangers bearing news of a blackout. As the threat grows, both families must decide how best to survive the potential crisis, all while grappling with their own place in this collapsing world. So Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 75%, IMDb gave this a 6.5 out of 10. Honestly, I think it deserves a little bit more, and here's why. So this movie was honestly really cool because I like the fact of how much it made me think after I got done watching it. I love movies that can really make you kind of question reality, make you really question of your current situation in the world and just really make you think. And now for this movie, it's in a sense of a family, kind of like how I read in this description. I'll do like a little overview about it and then I'll go ahead and go into a spoiler section, but it's pretty much just like how the description said. It's a family that goes on vacation just kind of out of the blue who live in the city. And while they're out on vacation, they get news from the actual homeowners of the Airbnb that they're staying at that there's a blackout, some weird things are going on. You know, their phone's cut out, you know, there's no reception, they can't call anybody. And just the feeling of remoteness, I guess, the aloneness and just being lost, I guess, is the sense of what they're trying to do in this movie. And the point they were really trying to get across is like how much we're tied to these devices that we have living in our everyday lives, and how much they really helped us, and honestly kind of gave light to how much of a crutch they are if you don't know how to live in the outside world. There's a lot of hidden symbols inside of this movie, and a lot of times if you're, I guess you could say, a city folk who doesn't really know how to survive like off the land or know how to navigate the world without technology, you know, this will be a pretty scary movie. So but I have a feeling that, like, you know, especially like in newer generations that really didn't grow up, you don't even have to be indigenous for this. You can be an outdoors person. You can just be a hunter or survivor. And, you know, those people are the ones, and essentially in every single apocalypse will have higher chances of surviving rather than a person who, you know, stays on their phone every single day. So I honestly think it was a really good movie. I give it a 7 or 8 out of 10, kind of around that area. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's a very, very good movie. It really makes you think a lot. And I'll probably go ahead into the spoiler section of why I think it's not a 10 out of 10. So what are my in-depth thoughts about this movie in the spoiler section? Welcome to the spoiler section, might I add. This movie was really interesting because it's in a sense showcases some of the characters in the movie that are really kind of tied to their phones. Like I guess it was highlighting like the newer generation. And I can say this because I have younger siblings who are on the iPad and play all these games. Like you can give a baby an iPad and they'll learn how to work it within a week. It's pretty crazy. But It's one of those things to where during the movie, if you lose communication with the outside world, whether that be through your phone or TV or even radio too, you know, how lost a lot of people would be because they don't have that one-to-one human connection or communication with a lot of people. You know, it's a lot of times you go from home, you work from home, or you can go into the office, you do your job and you come right back. There's not a lot of socializing like how it used to be back in the day. And I guess you could say that's one thing that would be a huge crutch, is because a lot of the communication we do these days is through our phones and social medias and everything. Now, that could be a blessing and a curse at the same time, because, you know, if you have family long distances, you can contact them, see them, or you can also see the news around the world and everything. Now, what kind of made this movie a little bit tripped out and creepy is that this could happen. It very well could happen. And what I really imagine, like the start of World War III, if you were to take out a superpower like the United States, you know, would be going at the people's technology, and would be going out to blackouts, cutting off their electricity, going to cut out communications off their phones, and, you know, no radio, no anything, go to satellites, and there's hackers. You know, the technology wasn't as, I guess, like abundant as it was in World War II. So if you ever play games like Sleeping Dogs, I believe it was the one where, you know, you can hack into people's phones and do all these things. If I got the wrong game, I'm sorry. Please put the right video game on the comment section. But this family goes, and during their vacation, staying at an Airbnb not too far away from the city, the homeowners actually return, and they're telling the family that's there, it's like, hey, there was a blackout. We were going to go back to my apartment, but my knee's jacked up, and I can understand that. He didn't want to climb 14 flights of stairs, which would suck. So they drove out back to their original home that they have that they're renting out to people. And the family that was staying there at the Airbnb, Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts, they were very kind of questionable if they were the actual homeowners. And unfortunately, he didn't have his ID, but he did have his phone. And a lot of times I kind of honestly feel in the new age, even providing an ID doesn't say much about the person. It may show that, like, yeah, you're a resident of this state or whatever, show your name that you're a real person. But I really feel like in the new day and age that you really want to know somebody, you go on their Instagram, you go on their social medias and show them pictures like, hey, this is my family, you know, this is who I am, you know, I'm an actual human being kind of thing. So, you know, he didn't have that to validate who he was. So it was kind of hard to trust him. And, you know, if I was in that position, I would have just been like, you know what? All right, if this is your home, take your home, write up an email, try to send it out to the homeowner and be like, all right, well, someone says that they're the homeowner that's here, so I'm gonna just dip out, go back to my place and everything. I mean, they weren't that too far away from their own place. So they ended up staying there the night, and then that's when things kind of get a little bit more weird. Is they were finally able to get the TV back on, but the TV was showing an emergency broadcast station saying that this is not a test, something bad's happening. And right there, immediately red flags would have been going off in my mind. It's like, okay, this is going pretty bad. And so, like, if it were me in that situation and our phones got disconnected, we're not able to talk to anybody, you know, I try to talk to my neighbors wherever they are and just be like, hey, is this happening? This is happening? Okay, cool. Well, not cool, but all right, this is happening. So I'm gonna end up heading back to the reservation, going back to my family, because my family and everybody out there, I recommend, if anything like this does ever happen, try to make a plan for your family. Find a meetup spot wherever you're gonna go. And honestly, it's like one of those things to where you're either prepared for it's like be prepared for everything, but hope nothing ever happens kind of thing. I'm not saying like go all out. Like recently found out Mark Zuckerberg has a huge bunker in Hawaii. But, you know, I'm not saying like if you have the money, go for it. I would love to have a bunker if I could. But yeah, so when those TVs started going off and those emergency broadcast stations started going off, the next day the father ended up trying to go into town to try to get some answers, but he did not have GPS to work. And honestly, living in the city myself, you know, I rely on GPS to get to, you know, I need to go to this store, or I need to go to this restaurant or something. If I use the GPS to try to find the best way through traffic and everything. And, you know, you can learn how to navigate through the everywhere, but that's one thing that, like, even if you're traveling, learn how to distinguish landmarks if you can. You know, on the reservation, that's one thing we grew up using, is because there's not really good GPS out there or cell service, so you have to use a lot of landmarks. I'm pretty sure like a lot of people out there would understand. It's like you live in a rural area, like, okay, You're going to take a right at the fence post and you're going to take a left at the broken down car. If you see a sheep corral, you know you've gone too far kind of direction. So I've just kind of instinctively grew up with that to be able to be like, okay, you know, we're passing by like a Big O Tires, take a right at Big O Tires, then left at McDonald's, and then keep going until you see a blue house or something like that. You know, that's something I definitely recommend people to try to learn how to do in case situations or something like this ever does happen. So the next thing that kind of happened was there was a lot of, and like how I said before, there was a lot of hidden messages and meanings in behind all this stuff. And I believe during one of the scenes, the radio station started playing and said that the animals were having irregular migration patterns because of stuff that was happening. And so you'll see sightings of a giant herd of deer showing up and flamingos flying in to their pool, and they were just like, what the heck is going on, you know? And then they saw the deer and they kind of freaked out by it. But me being an indigenous person or a hunter at that, you know, it's just like, okay, apocalypse is happening now. I know we got food supply. You know, we got meat, we do what you need to do to survive. But yeah, so that happened. And so that was just one of the things, is like with those sightings that happen, especially a lot of times with us indigenous people, is whenever you see these sightings like this, a lot of times the animals will tell you. In our tribe and traditions, the animals have their own omens whenever you see them at certain times. You know, say if a coyote crosses your path on the road, or if it's going east to west or west to east, if it has a piece of meat in its mouth, or, you know, you see, you know, a bunch of crows all over the place, you see a hawk, you see eagle, and etc. You know, they all have their meanings at certain points. So that's one thing, is like the animals were telling the people that, like, since they didn't have connections to be able to have their phones warn them, you know, Mother Nature in itself was warning him that something was going to happen. So when the father was out and about, he was lost because he couldn't find his GPS, and he ran into a woman that only spoke Spanish. And that was one thing too, is with these phones, you know, you have Google Translate to be able to help you translate whatever's happening. And they didn't have subtitles in this. I don't know. I didn't even try turning on the subtitles during the movie, but, you know, let me know in the comments if the subtitles actually translated out what she said. But it really showed that, like, you know, when you're panicking and all this stuff's happening to you, you know, what are you going to do and all this stuff? And he ended up driving away, and further down the road, he saw a plane flying close, really low down. And that's when, you know, there was a bunch of flyers that were coming down, and I believe it was a Middle Eastern language that was saying death to America, pretty much propaganda to instill fear in the people of what's going on, who's attacking them. And later on in the movie, they actually found out on the West Coast, the same thing was happening, but it was in Korean. So it was, in a sense, the whole world was against the United States. I don't want to say the whole world, but a lot of people were against the United States. And so the father ended up returning home and let them know about his family, and the homeowners know about what's going on. And with the homeowners, they were really worried themselves, because the mother of the wife and the mother of the homeowner was actually flying back. And one thing that was pretty scary was the homeowner went out into try to find his neighbor's house, and it was looted. I guess people were partying and there was just empty. So he ended up finding a satellite phone that did not work, which is actually pretty scary, because then you know, it's like, okay, you know, the satellite themselves have been taken out. And when he was there, he saw a plane crash right in front of him, and a bunch of bodies were laying on the beach, and that scared him. And I think they didn't say that in the movie, but I believe, you know, the plane that was his wife that was in the plane, I don't think that was the right plane, but probably hinted that she died in a plane crash. And that's something that's pretty crazy, is with hackers, they can hack into a plane. They can hack into, in the movie too, they hacked into an oil carrier boat, and it had a crash and steer, messed up their navigations, and did all these crazy things. And I was like, dang, man. And another vehicle that was messed up was a Tesla, you know, repping my Tesla shirt. Just kidding. Especially for this episode. But the family ended up going back home, and they ran into a giant roadblock of a bunch of broken down Teslas. And one thing that was pretty crazy was nobody was inside the cars, and it was backed up for a good mile or so. And while they were there, they saw a car coming down the road. It was another Tesla, and she was like, get in the car, let's move. He's just like, wait, aren't we gonna wait to see and talk to somebody here? And then she was like, there's nobody in the car. And the Tesla went and hit hit the other car in front of him. And I was like, dang, that's so crazy that, you know, right after, you know, all this stuff happened, that the hackers were able to hack into the self-driving mode of Teslas and to be able to take it wherever they wanted to go. So, and another thing that's pretty crazy and gnarly is I would say a week or a couple days after this movie came out, Tesla made a recall for all its vehicles for the self-driving update and everything. And I was just like, I don't know if that has any correlation, but that's pretty creepy. And I don't know if these filmmakers actually gave this idea to Elon to be like, okay, yeah, maybe let's put in some safety precautions to where that doesn't happen. So that happened, and you know, it's honestly pretty true because I wear a Tesla shirt. I've mentioned many times I have a Tesla on my channel too. So it'd be pretty crazy, you know, all this stuff starts to happen and I go in my garage and my Tesla's gone, you know, and I'm just souped up ready to go, and then I have to go travel 3 hours from car. It'd probably be like a day or two on foot back to my homeland and everything. So yeah, it's a big difference. So I'll probably invest in a gas vehicle, maybe as a backup. Who knows? When all this stuff started happening, the next thing that happened was the land was hit with a giant frequency that was super loud that started breaking glass inside of the home, was making everybody kind of freak out. And one of the effects of this was the sun was actually hit with some radiation from these radio frequencies. Now, it might be a combination of him getting bit by a mosquito and him getting a little bit of Lyme disease, or radiation, but his teeth started falling out. And I was like, hell no, that's something. In the movie I was watching, I was just like, oh God, I hope this is a nightmare or just a dream, because I've had those dreams where like your teeth fall out and all this other stuff and everything. But yeah, so that's something I have experienced a form or version of that device myself. Back in the day when I went to go protest the No Apple pipeline to be able to make sure, you know, the Lakota lands are safe, go help our brothers and sisters out there to defend the sacred, the U.S. military National Guard deployed a military vehicle that had a system on there called the LRAD system. This pretty much shoots a huge noise frequency and everything. And I was standing a pretty good distance away from that thing, but it was still pretty loud. And that's just a small version. So if you were to put that on the military grade to try to get as much land as you can, that stuff could be deadly, man. And, you know, burst out your eardrums. And that was one thing. When I got hit with that, even though you cover your ears, you can still feel that frequency going in through your body. And that was something that was pretty wild. And I'll show you guys a clip of that right here. So when the son got bit, and you know that he was kind of getting sick of radiation, so they noticed somebody before all this happened who's kind of like a doomsday prepper, was at the supermarket. So the homeowner actually knew that guy. He was his contractor that built his home and everything. He went to his house and they tried to get some medication for his son. Now this right here is where it shows the skepticism and how very fragile our connection with humans are, each other and everything. Trying to connect with each other and trying to just have normal communication is very rare these days. And especially with your neighbors too, you know, you very rarely see them, but you know, there's not a lot of bonding that happens like how it used to be in the old days. So connections with each other are very fragile. So when you have people in a panic state, you have people in fear of something that's happening, you know, they're going to be questionable about a lot of things. They don't know what's going on. You know, they're just in it for themselves to protect themselves. And a lot of times for good reason. You know, he understands that, you know, it's possibly World War III, possible end of the world apocalypse. And he stocked up on his supplies, and he doesn't know if the pharmacy is ever going to open up again. So he has to ration those things out. He has to be very careful, to the point to where during their discussion, it got to gunpoint. They were pointing the guns at each other. They were ready to kill each other. That's where it shows, like how I mentioned before, how fragile everything is. But they were able to talk each other down. You know, they were able to sell some of the medication for some money, and he was able to get the medication for his son. And poor thing, I feel so bad. The youngest daughter of Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts, her whole goal of this movie is just trying to see the last couple episodes of Friends. Now, I know all you guys are gonna hate this, but you have to understand, I have not seen Friends myself, and you know, let me know in the comments if I need to go see Friends, if it's a really good show or not. I just haven't had the time to watch it. I've been watching all these other shows my whole life, so yeah, burn me in the comments if you want for that. if it was really worth it for her to see those last episodes. And rest in peace to that one actor on there. I forgot his name, but I did see that he did pass away recently. So rest in peace, my guy. I might have to go watch the show just for you. So yeah, so she ends up finding at the very end of the movie a bunker where this dude was a doomsday prepper, and he had the whole series and TV show of Friends. She turned on the last season, she was able to watch it. She turned it off, or she turned it on, started watching, and that's where the movie ends. But the homeowner, I guess, used to work with a lot of people of the Homeland Defense or Homeland Security or something like that. Some very high up military people, and they talked about the cheapest way to bring down a country. And this is where it started making me think, because this right here is a very high possibility of something that could happen. You know, you have hackers that try to go into another country to try to disrupt, disorient, and make them disconnected from the world, make them freak out what's going on. They don't know what's going on. And so from there, that's when you go and disrupt their means of transportation, you know, for supplies, for air support, or, you know, just even everyday travel, like with the Teslas. You take those out, you know, then people will end up starting to go at each other. And I have to say, our country right now is not in the best of shape as from what I used to see when I grew up. I don't know if it's always been like that, and just social media is just highlighting that now. But it's honestly pretty creepy with all the, you know, there not too long ago, there was big old mass protests about, you know, presidents and everything that happened not too long ago. And just imagine what it'll be like, you know, if everybody lost connection to law enforcement. You can't call the cops. You can't call home. You can't call your mom. You know, you can't call your family, loved ones, friends. And it's just like, you know, that's a very scary place. So, you know, if I were to give out any recommendations to stock up on anything, try to get solar equipment, get solar flashlights. You know, that's something that, you know, will always work unless we get hit with an EMP, and I don't know how that'll work on a flashlight, but, you know, try to pick up knowledge on how to survive. Like how I mentioned before, pick up knowledge on how, when you're driving, pick up landmarks in case you need to go back. You know, try to remember those things. Learn how to live off the land, learn how to hunt, learn how to gather herbs and medicines for certain illnesses, sicknesses, or even pains, cuts and bruises. You know, try to find the natural remedies for those things. And yeah, but that's what I was saying. Like, I got done watching this movie and I was like, geez, man, like that. It's a very possible thing. There are hackers that are out there these days. There are hackers that could do these things and, you know, knock out entire grids, especially if you have a military version of hackers. And I'm sure our United States has hopefully something to protect against that, you know, but, you know, it was pretty gnarly that after this movie came out, you know, there was a power outage that happened over in New York City, and it's probably completely unrelated, but the coincidence is pretty crazy. So if you guys haven't watched this movie, I recommend go to Netflix, go watch it yourself. You know, very good acting, very good storytelling. Only thing was, like, you know, the deer CGI was kind of cheap, you know, but, you know, it's fine. It's meat is meat. Just kidding. But, you know, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be making one more episode before the Christmas and the holidays. But if I don't see you, Merry Christmas. I hope you guys have a splendid New Year. And here's the 2024, y'all. Y'all take care. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out all my social medias at Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I'll go on it.